What's up, everybody? It's Chad from Ask Chad, Grassy Logic. I'm here today with my special guest, Nicole Fuchs from the Southwest Trade Association. She also has a lot more under her belt, but I'll let her explain that to you here in a second. So thank you for joining me today. We're going to have a lot of stuff to talk about. The legislation session, like I said, has been going on for the past couple of weeks, and there's some stuff to talk about. So without further ado, Nicole, go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody. And thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. What a pleasure. My name is Nicole Fuchs. I'm a technical writer in the cannabis industry, and I do consulting. I help people with licensing, standard operating procedures, business plans, compliance checks, and becoming operational. So I'm also one of the founders of the Southwest Cannabis Trade Association. We are an association to help establish a community of cannabis business owners and cannabis adjacent business owners. We have bi-monthly meetings. Our next meeting is actually March 3rd at Picacho Peak Brewery at 4 p.m. And we're asking cannabis businesses to come and show us what they've got. We're having a little vendor market, and we want to see you set up your booth and work on your marketing. And so that's what we're doing March 3rd. And then April 21st, we're having a conference at the Las Cruces Convention Center. Cool. Which is also sponsored by the city of Las Cruces.
Nice. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, you guys have had events and stuff since, I remember last year, it was the first time I interacted with you and met you guys. And, you guys have been having meetings since then. And, I'm glad to see that you're kind of reaching out more and got the city to kind of get on board. But the city's been fairly supportive when it comes to cannabis in the first place. That's been helpful.
The city's extremely supportive, and they really want the cannabis industry to succeed and for it to be a benefit to our community. So.
I agree, because Las Cruces, being southern New Mexico, you think of southern New Mexico as more conservative, but we've taken more of a liberal approach to cannabis versus other places in the state, and actually some places around the country.
Right.
And so that's actually very relieving to see, because the industry is being treated like an industry around here versus something that's like, don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. There's a few things that do need to change and that should change in the future, but with time, people should start understanding. So, but yeah, thank you again for joining me. And is there anything else you want to say that's going on with the Southwest Trade Association or anything before we get going?
We really like to focus on education. So we like to hear from cannabis business owners, consumers, the community on what kind of education they need. Later today, when you give me a few minutes, I'll talk about compliance. We recently had a cannabis CPA come and present. That was super helpful.
Nice.
So really the association is here for the community and for the success of the community, and we want to hear from the local cannabis businesses.
Nice. Just like us over here on the podcast. However, she has a lot more resources that you guys can use than we can when it comes to that front, especially when it comes to licensing. So if you guys have any questions on that, definitely give them, or, specifically Nicole, a contact or a shout, because, she can help you out. She's helped many people in the state, or especially in the area, get their licenses. So anyway, let's get on with the episode and everything. I really wanted to talk a lot about like the legislature going on. There's some bills that dropped earlier this week. I don't know. I'm sure you've been able to read a little bit, or all of it. I haven't read through all of them. 313 is really what I kind of focused on. The other ones are kind of like, oh, okay, I'll get to that once I get really through this. And I haven't even gone through this one, all the way, through too. So I'll go through that one. So HB, which stands for House Bill 313, it was introduced by Andrea Romero. She's of District 46 in Santa Fe, and Javier Martinez, he's of District 11 in Bernalillo, which is up north. So these two representatives, if they're from your area, if you're for this, against it, these are the people that you would contact, or people of your representatives. You contact your representatives if you have any issues or anything from your area. You can Google it. I think Facebook, do they still have that where you can look up who your representative is? They used to have a cool little tool for that.
I don't know if they do, but I was in Santa Fe yesterday, and our local senators were present at the Meow Wolf cannabis event.
Yeah.
And especially around here, if you have input, I think senators like Senator Hamlin and Senator Bill Souls really want to hear what you have to say.
Definitely. I've interviewed Senator Hamlin before. She's really great to talk to. She's fun. She understands, and she's a cannabis grower. She grows cannabis, and she's really open about, talking about growing cannabis. So if you ever have an opportunity to talk to her, do it. Especially if you're into cannabis, she might want to listen to you. Maybe you have a good idea that they can, use in the state that would help the industry out somewhat or whatever. Right. So don't be afraid to talk to representatives, guys. That's the way our government works, is you are supposed to be able to talk to your representatives, not can you. It's you are. There's a difference. So that is your right, to be able to contact your representatives in this country. So these people that I'm talking about, they're not away from that rule. So you can contact these people too. That's why I give you guys this information. However, if these aren't your representatives, you contact your representative. You can still contact these representatives because it's their bill. Sometimes that's, a better route to go. However, if your representative says against it, or maybe your representative is kind of on the fence, you can contact them, and sometimes you can change their mind. I've been told by representatives before, it takes 2 people for them to say constituents. Right. And that's true. That's plural. So, when it comes to that, sometimes it only takes 2 people for something to change. And, when it comes to things like that, it only took 2 old ladies up north to bring up, I think, a smell concern or something like that for them to change something. So keep in mind, it really doesn't take that many people for this to change, guys. So, your concern or your suggestion could be the one that changes a lot, hopefully for the positive. So anyway, moving on. So this bill right here, it changes a lot for the it does address some medical stuff, I guess, but for the CRA, or the Cannabis Regulation Act, I'm still getting used to saying the rec side. So this does add some changes. The title of it isn't like Cannabis Regulation Changes or anything like that. Actually, the title, I have it right here. I can't see it. Anyway, so it has a different title. And what it does, it's going to add some cannabis nursery stuff. That's what it is. It's a cannabis nursery one. I couldn't think of it at the top of my head. So it adds cannabis nurseries as a cannabis establishment. Before that, I think it was through a Department of Ag, and it really didn't cost that much. And it was like a weird gray area, with seeds and clones and like having a nursery. And there was a lot of people doing
hemp?
it. Is it not hemp? Is it regulated in the state? Because, the Department of Ag says it's hemp because it didn't have THC. Then you look at the federal guidelines and it says it's hemp because it doesn't have THC. And so this is just clarifying that it is a part of the New Mexico cannabis industry. They are going to be a part of the establishments. They are going to have to pay a lot, et cetera, et cetera. So now instead of just being Department of Ag and being a little loophole, they're closing this loophole and kind of just saying, okay, sorry, we didn't address this before, but now we are, which is kind of fair in my opinion. I don't know about yours, it's fair, but at the same time, it's really expensive.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think it creates some infrastructure of how the industry is to operate, because there was some question, like if you want to buy clones, do you buy them from a producer? Do you buy them at a retail spot? Like, where do you get them?
Can my buddy next door give them to me?
Right. To designate the nurseries that will provide clones, etc., I think that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, I think so too. Because it was such a gray area, and don't get me wrong, some operators, really loved it. However, it doesn't look good when we're operating in such a shady manner. We're not California, so let's not do that. So it's kind of good that this is getting added. My kind of thing is it does increase the price, and I'll get to that of how much it did cost. It was a lot cheaper when it was Department of Ag, but now it's probably getting the price it probably should get, because they do make a lot of money. They provide thousands upon thousands of plants to people, every year. Really,
they roughly cost $10 each
to produce.
No, they sell them.
Oh, they sell them about $10. Yeah, so about $10 a pop.
$8 to $10.
Yeah, and then I'm sure if you're a big producer, they probably give you a discount or something, or a bulk.
I think I see there that the license proposed cost is $2,500 per year plus the premise fee.
Plus an additional premise of $1,000.
Okay.
So if you had an additional one, it's $1,000 on top of that. So it's not pretty terrible. Yeah, it's pretty low, but it's a lot higher than what it was. It was like $50 before. Yeah. So a lot of people had a really easy time getting in. So if you guys are trying to get a license or for this, you probably should be on it yesterday, because this isn't law right now. This is just going through committees and everything. It hasn't even been signed. And to be honest, this is probably going to change in the next couple of days once it starts hitting, its committees. So, what I'm telling you guys right now may not be the same thing next week. So at the time of recording, this is what this is saying. So I guess I should have said that beforehand. So at the time of recording, this is what this bill says. It's probably going to change. Actually, not probably. This is going to change. And it could die in committee. It could totally die, and then we have to wait till next year, which I don't know if that'll happen next year, because it's a 30-day session. But yeah, so moving on, giving you guys a little more information on this bill. It does increase micro producers plants from 200 to 1,000. I was hoping for 2,000, and again, it could change, it could increase, it could die. But right now it's at 1,000, which is actually good. You know, that's significantly more than what they had. However, I do feel like 2,000 would kind of keep them a little more competitive. I don't know about you, you know, what you've experienced, you know, with licensing and everything and what people are producing.
Well, you know, I don't know what to think about that because honestly, for some micro growers, they do need a little bit of oomph behind them.
Yeah.
To propel them from where they started from here this year to the future years. So I think an increase is fair. I'm not sure what it should be at. I wonder if the pay structure remains the same if it's 1,000, because right now, if you have over 200 plants, you have to pay $5 per plant at licensing time.
Yeah.
So if the micro becomes 1,000, will they still not have a plant fee? Would probably be one of my questions.
That's a good question. I would say no, because I didn't see anything in the bill that says that.
Cool.
You know, I didn't see anything, you know, that said that it would. However, it could change in the future.
Right.
You know, that could change.
I mean, I think it's great in the spirit of social equity, and it gives the moms and pops you know, a little boost if they need it.
No, I agree. And, you know, I've seen people just the past year, you know, kill 1,800 plants. You know, and they're the big market, they're the big producer, you know, they're the big license. Right. So, you know, that wasn't much for them. But I've seen people go and just kill out 1,800 plants because they're new to it.
That's
so,
true.
You know, having 2,000 plants, that might help out someone who's new.
They...
So, you know, it's all levels too as well. So that's kind of why I was thinking about 2,000, because, you know, the people that are new, they're going to kill plants left and right. You know, like, you know, I've killed plants left and right before. Yeah, you know, it's sad that, you know, but it happens, you know, like things happen and sometimes it's out of your control.
Right.
You know, like, and it's just like, oh no.
It's definitely a lot of times out of your control.
Yeah. And you're just like, oh no. So, I mean, that's the reason why I feel 2,000. And I just kind of want to know their reasoning for, you know, 1,000 instead of 2,000. And, you know, I'm open to hear, you know, like the reason it's suggesting.
I think it probably coincides with the increase they did for the regular licenses.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah. You know, 1,000 at a time, maybe. Yeah. But, you know, like we said, this is probably going to change, you know, hopefully it doesn't decrease, it only increases. So yeah, as of right now, the bill states that, you know, micro growers or producers will get an increase of, you know, 800 plants. So that's, you know, positive. If you guys are a micro producer or you're planning to be a micro producer, you should probably contact your representatives and maybe shoot for 2,000. You know, I mean, that just seems fair, you know, 2,000. I mean, the big producers, they get so many plants that, you know, 2,000 really isn't much to them. You know, I don't know how many are growing that many. I can't tell you off the top of my head, you know, which one is growing how many plants, because sometimes they don't even tell you that, you know, like they keep that confidential to the company, which, you know, which is fair.
And some people declare a plant count, but never reach that count.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
they realize the amount of capital it takes to get going, and like they may have a plant count of 1,000 and are like, no, this first year we're only going to do 500 or 800.
Yeah. Because it costs a lot, you know, just doing, you know, grow plans and stuff like that, and building grows out and doing blueprints for them, and, you know, giving people quotes. Sometimes the quote you give them, their eyes get really big and they're like, oh my God, I didn't realize it's going to cost this much. You know, just one light sometimes will cost them $600 or $1,000.
$900, yeah.
Yeah, you know, that's somewhere up there, you know, and the whole.
You say wait till you have to pay for labor?
Oh yeah, and I try to incorporate that, but it's like, you know, we'll wait until that comes around.
They already decided they're going to do everything themselves.
Right? Yeah. It's like I'm going to water every plant by myself, and I'm like, oh, that's cute, because you can only do that for so long before you know you can't do it anymore. So that's good that they're doing that. Moving on with the bill. So what it does also, it's removing a lot of the licenses from being under the Uniform Licensing Act. I haven't read the Uniform Licensing Act, so I'm not too sure what it says. So I'm gonna have to go in and read what that says. But that's what it's doing. It's removing that. What I'm thinking is it's kind of removing some of the weird guidelines that it had when it came to licensing in the cannabis industry, because it was so weird. I'm not too sure what like the super details are of it yet, because, you know, we're so early in this.
Right.
So this is really what it says. That's pretty much all the sentence says when it had it underlined. So keep that in mind, grain of salt. You know, it could get removed, could get striked out totally, you know, and when I say striked out in the bill, they'll literally strike out a sentence. And what that means is that it's taken out the bill, but they'll keep it there so you know what it said. And then if it's underlined, that means it's something new that's been added to the bill. or the law, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, you didn't know that? So that's one way that you guys know what things are new or old or what's being added.
I didn't know about the underlining.
Oh, you didn't know about the underlining? It'll say new material as well sometimes, but the underlining is like something that's been added or changed or is the change. So that's one way that you guys can see it really fast. And also control find is your best friend. That's how you can find some of the things that you want to find very quickly, is that button. So moving on with that, there's really not much to talk about that one, just moving from one thing to another. I think it's just clarifying and kind of loosening up some loopholes. Also, the director now in this bill will actually get a lot more power. So right now, really all they can do is kind of just like really get mad at you and, I guess maybe take your license, but now they can actually fine you up to $1,000. So if they go to your facility and they see something wrong, they can say, oh, well, we're going to fine you this, or we told you this last week and it's not fixed. Here's the fine of $1,000 on the spot. So that's one thing that's coming down because a lot of places aren't in compliance.
Right.
And Nicole and I had a conversation earlier this week, and it's almost 200 businesses were out of compliance, or there's 200 compliance issues, and that's not good. Like a lot of people are like, oh, it doesn't sound like a lot. It's like, but it's quite a lot. Like 100, 200, you're getting up there. That's quite a bit.
Some of them are
some
of the deficiencies are easily correctable, staff not displaying their badges correctly.
And some of it's
a matter of getting into the habit of things.
Exactly. But one thing that's happening is I guess the grace period is starting to end with the CCD, and we're starting to see that. And this bill is kind of reflecting that, is what I'm seeing.
Right.
Is like that grace period, the honeymoon phase, I guess, that we had.
Renewals just started. Annual renewals just started.
Exactly. So a lot of changes are coming to our industry, guys, and this is going to be one of them. And being fined $1,000, I mean, for each oh, I'm sorry, I was reading the wrong one. It's $1,000. I guess it's up to. And this could change. This could increase, or they could change it to, well, we're just going to fine you $500 per issue that you have. So if there's 10, you probably have a big bill coming, buddy. So, just keep that in mind, guys. And sometimes they'll probably just shut you down. And that's another thing, is RLD is going to have more investigative powers with this bill. They're going to be able to investigate longer, look at more things, and then be able to shut you down. And so if you're not following the law, the rules, whatever, RLD, CCD, they're going to come down and shut you down and, either take your license, fine you, whatever. And that's because, they gave us an opportunity to learn. And some people just haven't, they just refuse to. And I was reading an article.
People never opened their standard operating procedures. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you're correct. Some didn't.
I do want to say that at this time, I have been involved in some Cannabis Control Division inspections.
Mm-hmm.
Surprise.
They
haven't been calling ahead of time with producers, and they were very easy to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And although they identified issues that could be corrected with a corrective action plan, they seemed super motivated to want to help businesses remain open and make the necessary corrections. So, that being said, it's not a matter of if a business is going to get inspected now with, renewals coming up and different things happening,
laws changing,
black market involvement, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of when the cannabis businesses are going to be inspected. So
no, that's
everybody should prepare for it.
I agree, 100%.
Especially if they can go through an inspection without a fine and work on a corrective action plan.
Definitely. I mean, especially right now, guys, you're in a really good time in the industry because people coming after this are going to have a really hard time because there's going to be fines, probably behind some of these stuff that, simple things, badges not being shown, exit signs, maybe even, wet floor sign, that's probably a violation
for your employees.
Oh God, yeah. I saw that was like a really big issue. And, it's an issue when I go into some establishments, I'm like, who trains these people? Like, oh my gosh, it's like they just pulled somebody from right out of, college and just said, all right, good luck.
Yes, Cannabis Control Division definitely wants you to train your employees.
And it makes sense,
on basic work environment things that you would be trained on if you worked anywhere.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not like it's, super cannabis stuff. Like she said, it's just basic things.
Health and hygiene, occupational safety, customer service.
There we go. Simple stuff, like stuff that all businesses should be training their employees to do very well, because your business kind of relies on that. So, keep that in mind.
A funny story.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I create standard operating procedures for cannabis businesses, a little core binder of, the basic minimum things they need to follow. And I always put a little secret sentence in there to see if people actually read their standard operating procedures. And in the last year, not one person has called me out.
No way. Oh, no. Oh.
Sometimes I put funny stuff in there, like you're required to sing whatever song, happy birthday or something out loud while you wash your hands.
I think I've seen that somewhere. Oh, that's hilarious. And you know what? There's someone out there that's actually doing that, thinking that, oh, okay, this is how we do it. And like,
well, hand washing is important.
Oh, very, very. At least they're doing it for. You know what? Yeah, going into men's restrooms a lot. I've seen that.
Anyways, I just thought I mentioned that.
No, that's great.
Compliance tip 1: get SOPs and read them. Or
exactly.
Them.
Yeah, or write them yourselves, guys. And they're not super hard. It's just a how-to.
Right.
Like a how-to do it step by step. That's it, down by down. And when I was in the Army, SOPs were everywhere. And they were a little more complex than that. I wouldn't say complex, but longer in the Army. But in civilian world, they're just more direct. You do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. Make sure you do this. That's it. It's just a list of things that you do. So SOPs are important, but at the same time, a lot of people don't read them, and it shows when they don't. And
but they'll help you not get fined.
Yes, and like we said, guys, coming down, the CCD does want to help, but they're going to have to take some directive actions for certain people that just do not want to follow the rules or the laws, and that reflects that. So moving on, another thing in the bill that it really that changes is the requirement for your packaging. Before, they wanted your packaging to be like recyclable. Now it's like optional, and it doesn't say optional. The way that it's written in the bill leaves it optional, and so now it's not required. And so they want you to. It's like highly suggested. But it's like
people could argue that a Mylar is reusable.
Yeah, I can argue all kinds of things are reusable. So, styrofoam can be reusable. So, yeah, that's just one thing in our industry that we're going to have to tackle in the future. And New Mexico is not the only one that deals with this. Every state has dealt with the recycling problem, with the problem of us having 8 million doob tubes everywhere because, people really like pre-rolls, and, when I go to another state, if I just want to try something, I'll get a pre-roll, I'll get a gram. And, it's a small packaging and, that adds up. So that's something that I think in the future will have to be tackled. It's something that's not going to change tomorrow, next year or the year after, but eventually in the future, we are going to have to go in and kind of say, okay, what are we going to do about this packaging? Do we want to go glass? Do we want to go something all recyclable? What?
When I worked in the hemp industry, I briefly worked with a company that created packaging out of hemp, and they made the tubes.
Oh, okay.
And they're really cool, but they're super expensive.
Yeah, and that's the problem with recyclable stuff. It's kind of expensive sometimes.
And also, like, the priority is to be childproof, right?
Yeah, that's true too. When you have childproof, you have to add plastic, you have to add metal, and you have to have more complex devices and stuff that doesn't just open. So, and that complex, that makes the whole process more complicated. So you could probably only make certain parts of it recyclable and others not. So I guess that's just a change in the industry. I'm not going to give my opinion on it. That's up to you guys to make your opinion if it's good or bad for the industry. But that is something that could change. As we said before, this bill hasn't passed, hasn't been signed or anything. It's in committees. So this is just one of the ones that it's probably going to be the more predominant bill, or the more, I don't know how many bills are coming out. Do you know of any more that are going to be dropping other than this one?
I don't. Yeah. I do know that, yesterday in Santa Fe, the vibe was super positive regarding legislation and adult use cannabis and where we're going with the industry, decreasing the stigmatization and, moving on without the black market. And so it was a really good climate up there.
Nice. Yeah. Because I mean, it's good when your state capital is behind an industry like this. So
super.
that helps. That's good to hear.
We kind of need that, right?
Yeah. You kind of need your state legislature to back you in an industry like this. Definitely. So that's good to see. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it, because I really wanted to go, but maybe the next time. So moving on from that one, really not much to talk about there other than it's just packaging. Delta 8 is actually going to get regulated now, or synthesized cannabinoids, or the psychoactive ones that come from CBD. So you guys know, if you've been near a state that's illegal, or pretty much anywhere, I think you've seen Delta 8. I've seen it in gas stations, and there's Delta 8, HHC, Delta O, Delta 10. There's even Delta 9 derivative from CBD. What they do is they take CBD and they put it through a chemical process. It's like some weird chemical process, and then it ends up being psychoactive. And so at the end, you end up with this product that will get you high, but at the same time, it's synthetic, and so you're just kind of like, well, ew. So you don't know if it's good or not, or if it was made with a good process, or was the process dirty, or any of that.
Yeah,
so this kind of makes sense.
Regulated.
Yeah, and Delta 8 was an unregulated market, and it's mostly for the markets that don't have a cannabis industry really at all, like Texas.
Right.
Texas, it is crazy over there with Delta 8. You go over there and you can't throw a rock without hitting Delta 8. And so it's good that we're starting to regulate it here. It's not much of an issue here, because we have regular cannabis.
Right. People have access to other things.
Yeah. So it's a very small number of people that I've seen personally that use Delta 8, here in New Mexico. I worked at a CBD shop for a while that sold Delta 8, and, there wasn't many people who used it, but the people that did use it were the ones who were like, well, cannabis THC is too high these days. I like cannabis,
right.
but I don't like the high that it gives me now. But Delta 8 doesn't give me that, crazy high. And I'm like, oh, interesting. I tried it before and it wasn't for me. But I like to call it diet weed.
I was wondering if you're going to make the reference.
Yeah, I call it diet weed. But, for some people, that's what they want. They want something not so intense. So, but, it's not the majority.
I do know of a producer here in southern New Mexico that has strains that are like 8%, 6% THC that they grow specifically for the medical community. Yeah,
nice. And that's good to see. And some people ask that, I don't want something too high. And me, myself, I like terpenes. So if it's at like 16, 20% and it has like 2-3% terpenes in it, I'm probably going to like it. And it's probably going to kick my ass.
Right.
And so, that's something that I try to kind of test bud tenders on when I go in. I'm like, hey, what's your highest terpene profile, cannabis, that you have? And like,
how many minutes do they stumble on their words?
One got argumentative with me one time. She started to kind of argue with me, and I was like, dude, I was just asking. My bad. I'm sorry. So there's no way I could know that. And I'm like,
I'm just here to sell you.
I'm just here to sell pot. I'm sorry. Yeah. And so I don't drill them, but I just ask them. I'm just curious because, I want good smelling stuff when I smoke. So
yeah, totally.
Yeah. I don't want something that smells bad. So that's my thing. You guys may be different. Some people just go in highest THC, get me in and out. That's just how they are. Me, on the other hand, I'm not that way. So that's pretty much the gist of 313 for the most part, guys. Is there anything that I missed that you saw that we should probably talk about? Because I just kind of read what I thought was, kind of important. I know there's new stuff, not new stuff, but more stuff.
I think it's remarkable that they're going to establish something in regard to a committee for social and economic equity.
Yes. Oh, and I skipped over that, didn't I? Yes.
That's the spirit that the industry should operate under because it is part of our adult use rec program.
Yeah, it is.
So I really see that as a positive change. And I, have dealt with a lot of clients, and there are some clients who are eligible if there were to be a social and economic equity program, whether they're, have been negatively impacted by the criminalization of cannabis or they come from some other challenge, in their life that would make them eligible. So I think that I see some smaller businesses chasing their dreams, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So I would love to see something around social and economic equity that provides some funding, something beyond what NMFA is offering right now.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that. I want to see that happen.
Yeah, and it's called the Equity Bureau, and that'll be good for the cannabis industry, just to make sure that it's an even playing field for the most part, and we'll see how it goes. Like we said, it could change, and who it is, what it is, could change too. But let's hope it's for the positive for the industry.
Oh yeah,
it's not going to be something like crazy, because in one of the bills at the very bottom it adds the inspectors as peace officers. They're police officers, but they'll be inspectors.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm like, we need more inspectors, but not officers. Ooh. Yeah, so that bill, I don't know how well that's going to do. It's like snuck in at the very bottom. It's like all secretive.
It's just making it too complicated.
Oh, it is, definitely. So that's the 313 guys, pretty much the gist of it and everything. And thank you for, I skipped over the equity part because I did want to talk about that. Yeah, and I'm glad that we did. So that's 313. Going down to 314, actually, right here, the expungement. And then right here is actually cracking down in 313. I already talked about CCD getting more power and stuff like that. And it's mostly just for businesses who just pose a harm to the public or the industry, is like I like to say too, because it's both. You pose not just a harm to the public with selling moldy product and stuff like that, but you also pose a threat to the industry as a whole, because you give us a black eye. Like we all get lumped in one just category, guys. It's not just, oh, this one cannabis producer. No, if one cannabis producer does it, we all do it, guys. And it's not the fact that, well, I didn't do it. I know you didn't do it, but we all get blamed for it. And that's just the way it is, and it sucks. It'll change one day, but not today or tomorrow. So, but anyway, going down to 314. This is the expungement act that actually Andrea and Javier, the two representatives I mentioned before, this is their act again. This is their bill as well, both of them together. And I kind of feel like it's an extension of 313, kind of like they did with the CRA. They had that other extension for the other stuff. So what this does is it kind of clarifies expungement, because a lot of confusion came from the CRA one. And a lot of people are like, well, am I automatically expunged? Or like, no, you got to apply for it and everything. And this kind of just clarifies and says that, okay, now some are going to be automatically expunged after a certain amount of time. They're going to clarify what it's for. It's mostly for like possession and paraphernalia, stuff like that. I don't think it's for selling.
There's no like co-charges.
Yeah, exactly. So they're just clarifying, like clearing up some loopholes and stuff like that, guys, and just really making sure that they have good language in there so no one gets confused anymore. Because a lot of people have come to me and asked like, well, I don't know this process. And I've had to you're going to have to talk to a lawyer, because they're the only ones that can really guide you through that process, because I have no clue whatsoever. So it's good that they're doing this bill and clarifying it. I'm just kind of afraid of what it's going to turn into towards the end if it does pass. You know what I mean?
Not very socially equitable if you need to call a lawyer.
No, exactly. Yeah, and I think that's where they're going at with this one. You shouldn't have to call a lawyer if you're supposed to be expunged automatically.
Maybe just like a 2-page application.
Yeah, and with stuff that you have no clue how to get or what any of that language says. Yeah. So this is just fair. It makes the playing field a little more fair for people, especially people wanting to get, benefits, want to get, certain school stuff even. Some people are barred from that because of the charges that they have. They can't get, certain stuff for school loans, even, public housing stuff, people get screwed over with that. So this will help some people in that area and maybe get them back on their feet and, be productive in the community again. So that's pretty much 314, guys, in a nutshell. I mean, it's really short. It's like maybe 2 paragraphs. Like I looked at it and it fills up maybe 1 page and I was like, oh, that's it. Okay. Wow, pretty.
Just sounds like some housekeeping to me.
Yeah. Just some housekeeping stuff, closing up those loopholes, just making sure that, the language and everything is, good to go on it. So moving on, we're going to go to this next bill. And this is actually a different representative. This one is HB 331 and it's Tara Lujan. She's a Democrat and she's from District 48 in Santa Fe. Now, this one is for license background checks. I'm sure you've had to deal with those a lot. So before I really get into this, and it kind of just, to me, it seems they're just clarifying stuff again and closing up loopholes, and they're changing the FBI thing, but also keeping the FBI thing. They're taking the FBI thing out directly, adding, more checks, but then mentioning FBI again later on, which is kind of funny. So what are the kind of the things that you've seen when it came to the background? Because I've seen some stuff too. some like loopholes and kind of
some of them take an extended amount of time, and I try to give the situation the benefit of the doubt. But honestly, a lot of people have duplicate names. And
oh, really?
So I've seen that hold up the background check. You know, like if you and I have really unique names, but you know, if you were to apply with a more common name, there's like 5 other people in the state that have that name,
like Tony Lopez,
right? or in the culture in New Mexico, some people have like at birth we're given 4 names, but they've like randomly chosen 2 of the names to be instead.
I know, just it's like
so I looked at your driver's license, I didn't know your name was such and such. You gotta switch up your authorization for release.
So. That makes it just more paperwork.
I mean, but that's really all I've seen. You know, the process is really messy because you like fill it out, email it to CCD. At this time, they then open the portal and you upload it to the portal, and then you resubmit.
Oh my gosh!
And so and then CCD then sends it on to DPS. And at one time, there was like a specific customer service email that you could send to DPS to check on CCD background checks, but that person's not there anymore, I don't think. So, you know, it's a little messy because it takes a lot of steps. Everything's basically being filtered through Cannabis Control Division, whether it's going to DPS or Office of the State Engineer. So there's some extra steps in there.
And it makes sense. I mean, it's just bureaucracy.
In hemp, I swear we like went and did our own background checks of the place down the road and like gave our fingerprints, and they like signed off on it, and then we mailed it to Santa Fe.
No way. Oh, wow.
So this, you know, there's probably no good way to accomplish this.
Yeah. And, you know, I could see that, you know, like when it comes to background checks, it's nitty and gritty because you have the state, you have the federal, and then I'm sure there's different companies and stuff that helps with backgrounds, and it gets really messy. And then you're dealing with, you know, local police agencies. And so those are totally different on their own.
And you can be charged for you know, basically a violent felony, you know, for some things that might not seem that are that severe to people. And so all of a sudden they're applying for a license, and
they're like, well, it wasn't that bad.
Several people have not disclosed their background before we did it. But nobody's been denied that I know of, regardless of what their background is.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that's a positive because, I mean, some people, you know, they did go to prison and, you know, they did do some time. So, you know.
A lot of people, it was like 26 years ago.
Yeah, you know, people change. You know, people do change. So, you know, like, and I've seen it in the industry, you know, some of them look rough, but, you know, you could tell they're just changed. They're a total different person. And that's great to see, but they shouldn't be, you know, scrubbed from the whole program. You know?
No, not at all.
Yeah, so it sucks that, you know, you had to do more work for them, you know, but it just, it's bureaucracy. There's nothing we can do about it, you know, like it's just all the paperwork and stuff, and you're dealing with different agencies, and you're dealing with an industry that's federally illegal on top of it. So, you know, that creates even more paperwork and more bureaucracy because you're dealing with that. So, but like I said, the bill really just struck out like a whole paragraph and a lot of other things that just didn't really make any sense now. And they just added in pretty much like, oh, we're just going to kind of change the process up a little bit. We're going to take out FBI, and we're going to add a national check and then add it back in the sentence under it.
I saw that.
Yeah, and so it gets kind of confusing. And I don't know how
they're
people
just changing their process a little.
I do too.
I think they got weighted down at DPS from this because of the number of licenses. They probably did not expect this many people to submit a license.
I agree, because when we started last April, we had more dispensaries in New Mexico than Colorado did when they started. And I think we have 585 at this time of like just, I think, cannabis businesses and everything at the time. So, I mean, that's a lot, you know, for a state of 2.3 million people, that's a lot of businesses. And so, you know, that's a lot for these people to do. And yeah, I remember when the licenses were going in, like, holy crap, we're overwhelmed, and like all the boxes that they had stacked up, and, you know, it was
and there's
crazy.
Other like regulated industries that require background checks. So
I mean, even
the flow increased substantially for a while.
Yeah, and you know, you're dealing with something so new. You know, the industry here is so brand new that, you know, we're having hiccups, you know, and we had this honeymoon phase, you know, like I said, you know, like we're so new, we had a honeymoon phase. So, but that's pretty much 331 in a nutshell, guys. It's pretty much just clarifying some background stuff and everything, and you know, just kind of changing things up, crossing things out, adding new ones. If you guys really want to get the nitty gritty on that, and if it affects you, go ahead and read it. That's why I gave you the bill number, so you guys can go into the NM Legis website. It's nmlegis.gov, and that's how you find it. You actually, right now, all you do is on the homepage, you scroll down and it gives you a little search bar, type in cannabis, hit search, and all the bills pertaining to cannabis, or even I think that has cannabis in it, will pop up, and then you can see the numbers on the left, and then representative, et cetera, et cetera. Once you open it up, you can get everything there. So I'm not here to like guide you through the bill. I'm just here to tell you that the bill's there. Yeah, the bill's there, and you should probably go read it. So here's a few things to consider that, you know, that's going on in like our industry, and some things that I guess are kind of being brought up more that I've seen is labeling. I guess labeling is still an issue, and it's a big issue, and it's an issue actually we've had since we were medical. And I remember this because certain ones I'd go to, you know, they'd have everything on there, you know, like, oh, THC, who produced it, you know, who sold it, this and that, how much is in there, who your bud tender was, you know. Right. And then other places you go in, it was a Ziploc bag with like one of those little labels from Christmas. Yeah, you know, to from, you know, to the patient's name from dispensary's name, and that's it.
Well, interestingly enough, in medical, in the license application for manufacturing, you had to submit a sample.
Oh, label. Really? Oh, so the ones doing this wrong are like purposely doing this wrong.
I don't know. But in adult use rec, you don't have to submit a sample label.
Oh, okay.
I think you had to submit a sample label for every product you were going to produce.
I mean, it kind of makes sense, you know. You should have it on hand.
Some people make peanut butter, so there were like allergen considerations. Yeah. You know, it was pretty detailed and specific. So
no, you're dealing with a product like this, and it's being put into so many different things that, you know, it makes sense that we have to do that.
You know, that really brings up an issue that could actually be like 4 podcasts, which is that the way RLD has handled licensing, there potentially are some ways that they could, you know, toughen up the process a little to like weed some people out, like have them submit additional documentation with their application.
Yeah.
See what I did there? Weed some people out.
Pun unintended. Now we sound like real media outlets making these lame puns. So no, I agree. Some of these people do need to be weeded out, because I was reading an article earlier, and, you know, had a couple people, and they were talking about the labeling, and, you know, I've seen it too, you know, no expiration dates. Right. And one of the people that was talking about it, they're new to the industry, and they were actually selling illegal products from California. And that was another thing that we need to consider in the state, is the places that are selling illegal products. Guys, it's not legal to do that in the state. Not yet, anyway. Right. In the future, it might be, maybe in 4 or 5 years. But right now, what you sell has to be produced, manufactured, made, whatever, in New Mexico. You know, it can't come from California, then you manufactured it here. It can't come from Oklahoma. It's still in the same Oklahoma packaging, and you sell it here, because that's happening with the California ones. And, you know, that's one reason why RLD and CCD has to come down and crack down, because of, you know, instances like this. So, you know, this is stuff to consider, guys. You know, if you're selling illegal products in your shop, please stop. Like,
I've also heard of copycat products on the internet.
Oh,
like New Mexico copycat products.
Yeah, and stuff like that. So just keep in mind, guys, you know, be careful when you're buying stuff online. I know we can order online now, and we can have stuff delivered. So just make sure it's from a reputable source. It's from an actual real dispensary, and someone you can actually
have a courier license.
They have a courier license. And here's this: you can look up licenses in New Mexico who has the courier license. Yes, and how do you do it?
You go to the CCD website, and when you go to apply for a license, there's an additional button that says search, and you just hit search, and they give you like 6 options. You can put the business name, the owner's name, the address,
the business number, license number. I think you can. Yeah, so it's really easy, guys.
Super easy.
Yeah, you may have to do a little work, but it'll be worth it to make sure that your pocketbook is protected.
We can even see the 6 licenses you opened before you figured out the one you really wanted to submit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if they messed up like the name or something. Yeah, I've seen those. I'm like, why is there 5? Oh. So yeah, guys, it's really easy to look in the portal. It's really open.
Everything is public record.
Yeah.
And that's really, that's a great segue into what I wanted to say about compliance.
Yeah.
Which compliance is not a secret or a trick or, compliance is really straightforward. And even as a cannabis business owner, I don't personally own a cannabis business, but you have the opportunity to access the exact tool that Cannabis Control Division uses when they inspect you. So you make a public records request and you can get their score sheet.
So you have a cheat sheet, essentially.
Yeah, you have a cheat sheet, essentially. And some people, I even recommend them creating a binder and using this as their table of contents.
Yeah.
Because then when Cannabis Control Division comes, you have a binder and you can immediately hand it to them. And, less is more in those situations. You don't want to go to Sunday confession. You just want to give CCD what you have and then have them ask questions later.
Exactly. And no one's gonna, get inspected and not be nervous.
Right.
Like everybody's gonna be a little nervous. So don't feel like, you've done something totally wrong.
No.
It's natural to feel that way.
Right. And you probably did do something wrong. No one is 100% compliant.
True.
It's super difficult.
Yeah.
And also the inspectors are there to find something wrong. That's their job.
Yeah.
They're, basically auditors and they want to find at least one thing probably.
I guess they wouldn't be a good inspector if they didn't.
Leave them something.
Yeah, give them something, leave a mop bucket out or something.
I was just going to say something really, really similar. So.
Leave a mop bucket out or something.
And compliance is important. Don't become operational at your retail spot or your production facility until you have some of the real core compliance things taken care of, your security cameras, your registration on BioTrack. If there is an issue with your BioTrack, keep really great paper records that could potentially be transferred into BioTrack once you figure out what you're doing. But, it's really important to treat your cannabis business like any other business. That's what we want the city to do when they come to inspect us, right?
Yeah.
We want them to treat us like we're growing tomato plants or
flipping burgers
or whatever. And we should act in the same way. We should have our business in order and it should be safe for us and safe for the community. And things should be taken into consideration, like, fire extinguishers and exit doors and
badges, visitor badges. That was another one I saw a lot was, no visitor badges.
I mean, Cannabis Control Division actually has a section where they say that, and I believe this is true and I didn't just make it up in some dream, but where they say that you should post emergency phone numbers at your location. And so I literally make my clients their emergency phone number list with their own address, and it says you are here, because people get really flustered in an emergency, and so it's just simple things that you can do to increase your compliance and reduce any risk of something unsafe happening.
And most businesses I've seen, just not cannabis or you're just in general, they'll have a whole area, usually in the break area, and it has a whole billboard stuff of compliance, what the minimum wage is right now, this and this. And so maybe the businesses can take, some ideas like that and implement it in their businesses as well. It just makes it easier. Sometimes they ship it to you. Sometimes the city or whatever, they'll just send it to you.
Yeah.
And you just put it up and your work's done.
It's like an OSHA package.
Yeah, like a whole package for it. You just put it up and then your employees read it.
Totally.
Yeah. So, it's stuff like that, guys. So think outside the box sometimes. There's other resources you can look at or look towards to help you out.
You mentioned that the city is super supportive, and they are. They hold a weekly meeting. I believe it's Wednesdays at 2 p.m.
Yeah, they do.
And any cannabis business owner can go in and they have a selection of employees from the city there to help answer questions. So,
Yeah, there's another resource right there, free for you.
Yeah, totally. You could go and say I'm ready to open my business, but I'm not sure I'm compliant.
Yeah.
They could check a lot of things off the list for your local municipality.
Nice. And, sometimes the local municipalities is like your last hang up. Like I've seen a lot of people go in and like, oh, we're just waiting on the city. We're just waiting on the city. We're just waiting on the city. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. And if you're not in a supportive city area, you're going to have a hard time. Like if you're somewhere that doesn't want cannabis there, because in this state, we're not like California. California, 70% of those cities don't sell cannabis. Like they can't. But in New Mexico, it's not that way. They're not allowed to. But they can make your life hard.
They can.
Yeah, they can make your life a lot harder.
We're super lucky in the city limits. And also the county has been more and more open to discussions and how they can create success in the industry within Doñana County. And we've been allowed as the association to attend some meetings with Macias and some of his staff. So that's cool.
Yeah, it is. I've got to meet with a couple of county representatives and stuff too, the counselors. And they're pretty cool. Like they're really open. They really want to, see it thrive too. But there's a lot of misleading information, and of course, there's the people out there in the certain area of the city who want to get rid of a certain farm because it's too close to their houses.
Right.
Yeah, that community of people.
Yeah, those are my clients.
That poor guy.
They're super scared. Their first plant in the ground, and they've been licensed and ready to go for a while now.
Oh, that poor dude. Yeah, I've talked to him before. I've met him before, and I felt bad. I was like, oh man. So, but anyway, what are some other compliance stuff that you really want to share with people maybe getting started, or maybe people even in the industry now that would help them out, so that way they don't get dinged with $1,000 if that happens?
One of the changes that occurred during the application process, initially you had to submit a premise diagram with your application.
I remember that, yeah.
And then it sort of became an issue because all this is public record. So you no longer had to submit an actual diagram, but you had to attest that you would always have one on the premises.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
And so, that gets overlooked. People are anxious to get going and get to their first harvest, and they forget what they attested to 6 months ago. So one of the things everyone who has a cannabis business said they would do is create a premise diagram. And the premise diagram actually has to fit certain criteria per the Cannabis Control Division. It has to have every camera on it, and every camera has to be numbered on the diagram. You have to have a limited access area designated in your facility. You have to have the entrances and exits marked. I'm pretty sure you have to have a fire.
Like a fire.
In case of fire, how you leave the building.
Yeah.
So, make sure you do a premise diagram. It needs to have I can actually tell you everything. I have it right here. It needs to have a brief statement or description of what you do. The boundaries of the property, which are important because I believe that some people submitted their premise diagram of just the building, but it has to include the whole boundary of the property.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Any equipment you use, I actually create my clients just an outline for them to create an equipment list. And it's not only helpful for CCD, but it's helpful for yourself because if something were to break, that list basically has the one I have my clients create is a list of equipment, where it came from, and the brand, so that they
serial numbers.
In case of an emergency, they can replace it.
Call in customer support, tech support, whatever. Definitely.
You have to have every entrance, exit, interior portion, location of the lights where plants are cultivated, the max wattage or wattage equivalent, walls, rooms, windows, and doorways all on your diagram.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. That's quite a bit though.
Yeah.
So, maybe some people would probably hire like electrical engineer probably for
some people
parts,
have some really nice ones.
Yeah, I'm sure like bougie.
Some people are like me and got their graph and paper and their ruler out.
I got this info, just hand
black
jam it.
and white though. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
No
Okay.
highlighting.
So I can't use like crayon or like,
no crayon.
Okay. Well, at least I know now.
And probably the other really simple compliance thing that you can do for your business is something any other business would do, but create a personnel file for each of your employees.
Okay.
And make sure there's a document in there that indicates that your employees have been through some training. And Cannabis Control Division actually requires that document be signed by the person who was trained and the trainee.
Oh,
and
okay.
The trainee and the trainer, and have the date that it occurred. And so everybody's personnel file at cannabis businesses needs one of those per cannabis control division.
And, that makes sense, and it'll just make it easier, when they come in to inspect. It's like, where's it at? It's in that cabinet over there. Okay, right. Alphabetical. Here's a name. Like, they could probably just think of
their food handler's license.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, Sally was the girl I saw at the window. Right. I'm gonna look her file.
Right.
Okay, she has everything here. You guys are good to go. Yeah, perfect. She's trained.
Totally.
You guys are training your employees.
I mean,
what they're supposed to do.
Cannabis Control Division's inspection sheet is actually about 7 or 8 pages long. Before I got a hold of it, I created one myself. It's only 4.
All right.
I did send it to Cannabis Control Division for feedback. I never really heard back from them. So, no, I have a good relationship with the inspectors, and I know who they are, and they know who I am. So, that really the compliance trick here and tip is to be familiar with what you need when the Cannabis Control Division knocks on the door.
Yeah.
And again, I just really encourage people, even though it seems a little antiquated because we're all online and stuff, but to physically create a binder that has everything in, a copy of your license, a copy of
in the Army, we
your
called that
diagram.
We called it a love me binder.
Dude, I have put some love into some of these binders.
Yeah, see, that's why you put love in it.
I won't name the dispensary, but I did bejewel somebody's binder.
The CCD says that, they're not even going to look at it. They're like, no, that thing's squared away.
They said that they know when I've made the binder. They've got my number. They know,
that's hilarious.
They know my
your whole thing.
They're like, wow, you have quite a following.
It's like, all right then. Yeah.
Well, what color binder did they get?
So do you change the colors quite often?
I use between 5 and 6 different colors.
So you have like a palette, really.
If I really love you, you get a green one.
Oh, okay. That's okay. I'll keep that in mind.
No offense to my clients out there who don't have a green binder. It may be that I didn't have one.
She loves all her clients.
I do love all my clients.
Nice.
And actually, I used to work in the behavioral health field, and I can't really go into detail, but many things from my behavioral health life have come full circle. Being a grant writer and doing program evaluation, and even some of the clients that I work with today, maybe I saw them in my past life as a behavioral health provider. So it's really cool.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm super passionate about my clients. And I also operate in the spirit of social and economic equity because I don't want my services necessarily to be the challenge or the roadblock that didn't make them proceed forward. So
yeah, definitely. And you're only here to help.
I just try to get people to the starting gate and pray for them after that. I'm just kidding. I'm like, call me if you need help.
Like the mama turtle, just wishing them luck as they go into the ocean.
I do feel like a cannabis mom. I definitely have some cannabis kids out there who are 20 to 30-year-olds who are opening cannabis businesses.
Nice. It's good to see.
Sometimes don't know a lot about business, and nor do they know a lot about cannabis, but they're excited. Or that weird.
Yeah, the weird thing called life. Yeah, experience in life. Yeah. So and I like seeing that. The age differences. It varies. It's not just old people in this. These young people. There's middle age. There's older. It's a wide range of people, and I like that. Keeping it equal.
I personally like to promote the women in the industry as well. And, I just think that the cannabis industry is a place to become bigger and better always, that we can eventually have some really skilled positions and potentially maybe even some community programs that place people in well-paying, skilled positions in the cannabis industry. So
I agree 100%. I have sisters, so I support women in the industry 100%.
Yeah.
And in New Mexico, we actually have, I believe, more women owners than some other states. So it's actually good to hear and see. It's not a majority, of course, not yet, but it's more than other states. And I'm like, oh, that's good to see here. We have more there. So What are some other, maybe one more tip before we go today?
One more tip. No, I'm just kidding. If you're a producer, you need to have a cultivation plan present once Cannabis Control Division comes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, in the inspections, I won't say who the inspector was because I don't want to like call him out or anything. But right, I mean him. No, I'm just kidding. But you know, he was very interested and took the time to listen to the cultivation business owners and what their daily routine was, how they did give the plants love or didn't give the plants love. And so, you know, I loved seeing that was an important part of the visit from Cannabis Control Division, that they were interested in the processes and procedures and the day-to-day in and out. So, you know, have somebody have like a general manager or somebody on site who basically has a good overview and knows what's going on. So when Cannabis Control Division comes, they can talk about, you know, the infrastructure and the day-to-day stuff.
That makes sense, you know. So try to have your A team there, I guess.
Yeah,
but, you know,
yeah. I mean, you don't know.
Yeah, you won't know, but I guess try. If you kind of feel that it's coming, try to prepare for it.
The other thing is that I found because there would be times where people would call me for a license, but I could tell they were like really smart and already had it going on and had gone through some of the steps. But then I'd like start to ask them about their social equity plan. And like some of these people had like written master's thesis too, like 4-page social equity.
So I get this question a lot too. What is the most simple social equity plan you could just tell someone to do?
Dude, I literally write like a 4-paragraph one that's like, like, you know, introducing the company. If it's a husband and a wife, I always list the wife first.
Okay.
And I try to say it's woman-led if that's the situation. And then, you know, I describe the company and I highlight anything that might be considered to go under social and economic equity. Okay. Maybe if they're, you know, of a different race or something. And then the next paragraph, I say that the company won't discriminate, you know, in any way, shape, or form. Race, color, you know, blah, blah, blah. I also say that the company, and I talk to the company about these things ahead of time and be like, hey, you have to do this. And, but that they will make an effort to recruit employees from all different areas. Maybe they're going to post on a job board at the library, you know, not just social media, because, you know, there might be like a really awesome older person or younger person who doesn't like social media. You know, maybe if you're a cannabis business owner, you want to put up a job announcement at Munson Senior Center. I don't know, you know, so, and then it also says that in some way they'll give back to their community. Some businesses already know, you know, they're like, we do this, you know, we hold a clothing drive, we hold a canned food drive. Some people want to train people coming into the industry or function as a mentor. Some people want to do tabling on ending the stigmatization. So those are really the 4 points I hit. And I really do encourage people not to overthink it, because what's happening is there's somebody at Cannabis Control Division with a checklist. I mean, I'm assuming, I don't know you guys, I never worked there, but I've worked similar type jobs. And you know, they have a checklist and they're just checking off that you make your major points. You don't have to divulge your life story.
And at that point, they have it memorized probably, and they're just like, got it.
I'm
good.
sure they see mine and they're like, oh yeah.
It's not a thesis, but it's there.
But same if you decide to write your policies and procedures, don't get caught up on, you know, like making it OSHA certified or something. I personally am not OSHA certified. The people in the state of New Mexico who are and who write SOPs are much more expensive than me. So, you know, if you're at that level, if you're a large producer or manufacturer, you should probably have somebody a tiny bit more sophisticated than me. Not really. I could help you still. But, you know, huge people. So, but yeah, those are like my little tips.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, you know, and that might help a few people out, because, you know, even for me trying to explain it to someone, I was like, how do I explain it? But it's so simple, you know, it's so simple, but
people do overthink it.
Yeah, and I tell like don't overthink, the process of this. Like
Yeah.
the environmental part, like what do we put for that? Like, do I have to have like a hazmat suit or something?
Yeah.
Or like what?
I mean, on a water and energy use plan,
Yeah.
I do include, the water source, how much they suspect they're going to use.
Yeah.
I recently had somebody tell me that they use like 4 gallons per a plant per day, which seemed really high compared to what everybody else
It's like
was
half a
telling
gallon
me.
to a
But
gallon,
I was
but
like,
yeah.
okay, I'll put it down, guys.
It's like, okay.
So, and for most people entering the cannabis industry, if they don't have experience in medical or hemp or something, this is a huge lesson in scaling up.
Yeah.
And
No,
so
definitely.
when you're going from your back bedroom, no, I'm just kidding, to a warehouse that's monitored by cameras,
Yeah.
Compliance is a thing.
No, definitely. Like there's no cutting corners at that point anymore.
Not really, especially like you said, once the honeymoon period is over.
Yeah. And like right now, guys, you can kind of continue to mess up until things change, but just try not to.
Right.
Yeah, you can all day, like, it's possible, but just please don't.
We're all the same.
Yeah.
We all want the same things. We all want to be successful.
Yeah.
And collaboration is probably the key in the end, us helping each other out.
Yeah.
Different businesses calling other businesses or calling me to say that they got inspected and telling me about their experience is always awesome, dude, because I've learned so much about the people who called and reported to me about their inspections if I wasn't there. So yeah, do it.
Nice.
The 2 C's to be successful: compliance and avoid contamination.
I love it.
That's what I tell my clients.
Well, now you can tell the rest of the state and the industry,
Guys, be compliant and avoid contamination and you will be successful.
I
recently had somebody tell me that you need to really be thinking about your price points too. So there you go.
Yeah. Price points together. It's going to be a big thing here really soon.
It's going to be everything.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's going to be all we talk about on this podcast in the next 2 to 5 years.
Yeah, and I predicted that about the first year to about 2 years, we're going to see high prices, and then we'll see a dip. Then we're kind of headed towards the dip, to be honest.
Well, I'd love to come back and have that conversation.
Me too. Well, I appreciate you joining me. Where can the people find you and everything, and what you do and all that before we head out?
I feel like I know everybody. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm definitely on Facebook under my personal name. I do own 2 LLCs that have Instagrams. One's called Girls Who Grow.
Okay.
And the other one's called Cannabis Industries.
Nice.
And I actually have a cannabis, a 1961 Volkswagen Camel van.
Are you going to use it? Like, are you going to ride it?
I brought it out to one of the dispensary's grand openings recently.
You got to bring it out more.
I let people have a little smoke session.
Oh, nice.
And we got some amazing pictures.
Oh, cool. I'll have to see those sometime. Yeah. We'll start on social media, then I guess I'll see it.
I think Coco, I don't know who took those pictures.
Okay, yeah, Coco's a good guy. I'll have to have him on here sometime. Coco, I know you watch.
I know you watch too, Coco. Shout out.
Freebie for you, buddy.
Melissa too.
They're good people. Love them. So anyway, thank you again, Nicole, for joining me on this.
Thank you so much.
Of course, yeah.
Great.
It's been great, and I'm glad we got to talk about compliance and everything. And before we go, guys, RLD is hiring a cannabis compliance officer here in Las Cruces. So if you're interested in that position, go ahead and apply for it. I'm sure it's on the RLD
on
website.
Their website.
Yeah, on the careers. So anyway, thank you again, guys, for joining me on this 4th episode of Ask Chad Grassy Logic. Nicole, again, thank you so much.
Thank
Such
you.
great information came from this, and it probably helped so many people out in the state. So
I had a great time. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we're out of here, and I'll see you next week.